All right, here we go again. This is a illustration of a steam boiler. They look the same when you walk into the room, but there's a lot of ways that you can tell. What a steam boiler does that we will have water in about halfway up in the boiler. We have the flame, whether it's oil or whatever. It heats the water, turns it to steam, and the steam goes out the pipe. All right. When that starts to pressurize the system, there's already air in there, and it's not going to flow because it gets pressurized and it doesn't go up. So what we have to have is an air vent, okay, that at, say, room temperature, this is open. So what happens, then the steam can get there, whether it's 1 or 2 stories up or there's 15 of them in a big church or something like that. Then when the steam gets in here, it's hot, and then this thing will close. Now the radiator is hot. So the hot steam, which is 212 degrees, heats the radiator, but it removes the steam, heat from the steam, and it condenses to water, and it goes down here, and then we have a steam trap here. When the water gets it, sort of like a valve in a toilet tank, it'll open up and let the water return, back to the boiler. So it just sits there and circulates like that. Now, we do have water sometime. Remember 100 years ago when I was in school, these things would hiss. Psst. Sometimes they wouldn't seat. So it's not unusual that we would lose a little bit of water. So there has to be some way to make up the water we lose. And so there's a make up water system. It could be one of two things. It could be manual or it could be automatic. Here's to be a sensor that when the temperature drops below 212 degrees, even though it's 200 degrees, it's still not 212, this would open up a gas valve and then fill it back up again, to do it. These will have a gauge glass on the side that represents where the filling is on the boiler so you can see. Some big boilers are going to have maintenance men, and their job is to monitor this and go ahead and make sure that the water is filled. And a big steam boiler for a building would have valves down here to open up, and any crud what gets in there you can flush down, down the floor drain in the boiler room to keep all of this fresh. Some of the valves like this are manual. They'll have like a basketball or soccer ball size of a thing right there that has a float in it like the toilet tank, adjusted to this level, and if the water level goes down, it opens up a valve just like the toilet tank, and envision if this was a toilet tank, keeping it full. Then that does it. You don't have to worry about any electronics or this thing getting dirty or whatnot like that. Had a church in Rockville. They called me in there that they got scared on a Sunday service in the wintertime and went in there, and one of the guys said that, and this was an antique, not an antique, it's an antique church, built back in the day of slavery days. But at any rate, the guy swore that this almost looked like it was red hot. Well, what happened is the boiler got absolutely dry. It got so hot that any of the melted stuff, like on the gas valve and the wires, were all messed up and everything else like that. And they're very, very lucky that the thing didn't explode. And for some reason or other, there wasn't even any steam or anything in there for the relief valve. It probably had already dumped what it could do. And they're lucky it didn't catch and burn the church down. The good part of it is I got the job to replace it and put an automatic fill, because people at churches generally don't know what end of a screwdriver to grab or anything else like that. So they have to do it. Now they have one pipe systems on some of them that the steam comes in the pipe, and it's and you'll see that in the book, sloped towards the boiler. So when it condenses, it goes down the same pipe that the steam vapor is coming up. And if you ever heard of like what they call steam hammering in a pipe, it's just like somebody taking and hitting the pipe with a hammer. What's happened is the water going down hits the steam coming up, and it flashes the steam. It's like a miniature explosion go. And there's an old song, Steam Heat, and they have a hammer hitting a pipe. It's not unusual for that to do that. It's going to have a relief valve like the other one that has to go straight to the ground. This gauge glass is actually literally a glass tube, like a straw, but it's about a half inch in diameter. Little valve here where you can shut it off and take it out because it does get dirty, and use a little circular brush and and clean it out. And a lot of times, what happens with some of the maintenance thing is when you turn the system on, if a radiator doesn't get hot, this is the culprit here. And sometimes I go out and I might have to change 2 or 3 out of 15 of those steam vents don't work. This boiler runs, the relief valve is going to be at about 5 pounds. So they call that low pressure steam. You may or may not even ever work on it. Two pipe systems is what I've shown right here. Some of them have gravity return. The boiler's in the basement. As long as you can get down there, sometimes they have to go to a pump, and then the pump will pump it up and return it back to the boiler. Uh, and then the water makeup, like I told you, can be either automatic or manual, depending on the desire. So I would read it in the book and see. You can convert these from steam to hot water. Did that. Was consulting with a company that changed the Italian embassy residence. They had 72 radiators in there. They took out a 1,000,000 BTU steam boiler and put in two 500,000 water boilers, and we had to take the guts out of here. We had to change this to an automatic air vent, and we had to replace a number of radiators because some of them have cracks or something, which worked as a benefit. The steam would come out and give them a little bit of humidity, but taking it from 3 or 4 pounds and putting in 20 pounds worth of water, we had a lot of them that were leaking. We had to replace them, but it was quite interesting. Except the lady that lived there, she liked the 212 volt, not volt, but temperature radiators, and then with say just maybe 140-degree water, she complained about it, but she probably never had to work in her life. So that's the steam boiler system. And either one of these, you had questions, send a question, to the whole class, so I can answer your question and everybody else see the question and whatnot. So don't be afraid to do that. That's one way we can learn.